Have you ever felt like you were different, but could never explain why? Like you were walking through the world wearing invisible armor, marked by something sacred, something otherworldly, yet unable to name it? You've always sensed the disconnect. Even in a crowded room, you felt alone, not because you were broken, but because you were being set apart. From childhood, there was this whisper, wasn't there? A quiet but persistent voice saying, "You don't belong here, not fully, you're meant for something more." That feeling isn't coincidence, it's confirmation. There are sacred truths in this life that aren't taught, they're revealed, and only to those whose spirits are finally ready to remember. If you're here right now, reading these words, then your soul has already begun to stir. That isn't by chance, it's by divine alignment. You didn't stumble onto this video. You were called to it, pulled by something higher, because something within you is beginning to awaken. Comment 777 below if your heart is already beating faster and your spirit feels like it's on the edge of remembering something important. That number isn't random. It's a sign that your divine recognition has begun. And to every single one of you who has supported this mission through super thanks, please know this: your love and generosity are not just noticed, they are cherished. You are the lifeline that helps bring these prophetic messages to those silently praying for confirmation. Your giving isn't just support, it's spiritual alignment. Now listen closely. What if I told you that you carry 3 spiritual marks, 3 divine imprints from God Himself that most people around you cannot see, but heaven can? Marks that separate you, elevate you, and assign you to a mission greater than you've imagined. Most chosen ones go through life sensing the difference, but never understanding it. They feel the weight of it, but never learn how to carry it. Could that be why you felt so misunderstood, so different, even by your own family? These marks are not flaws. They are fingerprints of the divine. They are the reason the enemy fought you so hard, the reason your path has been so difficult, the reason people couldn't handle your presence even when you were quiet. The world never taught you what they were, because the world isn't designed to recognize chosen ones. But today, that ends. In this message, we're going to uncover these 3 powerful spiritual marks, layer by layer. I'll reveal them in ascending order, each one unlocking a deeper level of identity until we reach the 3rd and final mark. The one that, for many, activates a complete spiritual awakening the moment they recognize it. Are you ready to see what's been hidden in plain sight your whole life? Then, stay with me. The first mark is closer than you think, and it may just explain why you've always felt like you were born for something the world couldn't give you. Let's go deeper. God's chosen ones, you carry 3 spiritual marks. You don't even realize yet. Let's take a closer look at the 3rd spiritual mark that God has hidden within you, one that rarely gets acknowledged, even by those who carry it. Yet it holds an extraordinary kind of power. You have been gifted with the ability to sense what others cannot. You walk into a room, and without a single word being spoken, something in your spirit shifts. You feel the heaviness, the tension, the unseen warfare hanging in the air. Have you noticed how you seem to detect the mood before anyone explains it? Or how you've had moments where your inner alarm went off? Then, hours later, what you felt turned into reality. This isn't just heightened intuition. It's something deeper, far more sacred. It's spiritual discernment, God's way of alerting His chosen ones to what's moving behind the curtain of the natural world. It's the unseen radar of the Spirit. You don't just feel things emotionally. You discern atmospheres, detect unspoken intentions, and recognize spiritual alignments or disruptions before anyone else around you can process what's happening. The Apostle Paul spoke of this mystery when he said that the person who is filled with the Spirit makes judgments about all things, though others may not understand them. Those with the Spirit, he explained, are not judged by worldly standards because they operate on a higher spiritual wavelength. You've likely experienced that tension where people question how you knew something or dismiss what you feel simply because they don't see what you see. But your sensitivity isn't something to suppress. It's a signature of heaven written into your soul. Think of the prophet Elisha. In the book of 2 Kings, there's a moment when the king of Aram is infuriated because his battle strategies keep getting exposed. What he doesn't realize is that Elisha, through divine revelation, hears the very plans spoken in private. God whispered to Elisha what no spy could overhear. Can you imagine having that level of spiritual clarity? And yet, some of you already operate like this without realizing it. You pick up on conversations that haven't happened yet. You feel shifts before the ground even moves. It's not paranoia, it's purpose. I've had moments like that myself. I remember once sitting across from someone smiling politely, yet something inside me churned. I couldn't place it at the time, but I knew something wasn't right. Days later, the truth came out. What was hidden in their heart had begun to surface. That day, I understood. What I carried wasn't suspicion, it was discernment. And when you begin to trust that voice within, it becomes your compass. Even outside the church, we've seen individuals gifted with what the world often calls intuition, but what many of us recognize as a spark of something divine. Take Nikola Tesla, the inventor whose ideas were far ahead of his time. He once described his brain as merely a receiver and spoke of a universal source from which knowledge and inspiration flow. While Tesla wasn't preaching scripture, his insight speaks to a spiritual truth many overlook. Divine revelation doesn't always arrive with thunder. Sometimes it whispers in frequencies that only the spiritually attuned can hear. Have you ever had a dream that felt too real to dismiss? A sudden knowing that interrupted your day? Have you found yourself protecting someone without knowing why, only to learn later they were in danger? These aren't coincidences. They're confirmations. What you carry is rare, and even more powerful. It's necessary. In a world flooded with noise, distraction, and deception, God needs those who can feel the truth before it's spoken. You've been called to be one of them. You don't just walk into a room, you shift it. You don't just perceive the moment, you prepare for what's coming. And whether others acknowledge it or not, heaven already has. That's why you feel different, because you are. Have you ever been told you're too sensitive or that you overanalyze everything? Maybe someone made you feel like your emotions were a weakness, or that your deep awareness made you a burden. But what if the truth is the opposite? What if your sensitivity is sacred? What if it's not a flaw at all, but a spiritual function designed by God Himself? You were wired this way for a reason. That inner signal, that pull in your spirit when something feels off, it's not just emotional noise. It's a divine instrument, finely tuned to pick up what others miss. While others rely on logic, you lean into revelation. While some wait for confirmation, you move at the nudge of the Spirit. Could it be that your ability to sense the invisible isn't a trait to tame, but a tool for your mission? You're not imagining things, you're discerning. And that early alert system within your soul, that's not anxiety, it's assignment. That's one of the spiritual marks stamped on your life. It's the sign of someone who is being used by God to see what others overlook. This sensitivity runs deeper than mere emotion. As one of God's chosen ones, you carry a spiritual resonance with something much greater, what many today call the informational field. It's a realm that science struggles to define, but Scripture has always pointed toward. A living, vibrating network where the unseen speaks before the visible appears. You may have felt it without knowing what to call it, that silent whisper in the atmosphere, the spiritual frequency that seems to hum with divine anticipation. In this world, everything carries energy. Every word, every thought, every emotion emits a frequency, and because of the mark you carry, your soul is tuned to that frequency. You don't always need explanations, because you simply know. There's a knowing in your spirit that overrides the noise around you. You sense betrayal before the lie is spoken. You feel danger before the threat takes form. You discern favor before the doors even open. Even the world of science is beginning to confirm what the Spirit already revealed. In quantum physics, there's a concept called the observer effect. This idea that the mere act of observing something can alter its outcome. Could it be that your awareness of the unseen isn't passive? That your presence, your spiritual attentiveness, actually shifts what's unfolding in the natural? What if the reason you feel things before they happen is because God has entrusted you to participate in how they happen? This isn't just theory. The Bible gives us powerful confirmation through the life of Joseph, the dreamer. Long before the events of his life played out, he saw them in visions. His rise, his rejection, the famine, and the coming rescue. His brothers mocked him, called him arrogant, and threw him into a pit. But what they couldn't understand then was that Joseph was living in a future they weren't ready for. And when the time came, his spiritual foresight didn't just save him, it saved nations. Could it be that you're carrying blueprints others don't yet recognize? That you're seeing spiritual weather patterns before the storm ever clouds the sky? But carrying this gift isn't easy. It often feels like a burden. When you try to speak what you see, you're dismissed. When you try to protect others from something you discern, they call you overprotective. When you sense deception, you're labeled suspicious. You warn them and they mock you, until the moment comes when everything you felt begins to manifest. Has that happened to you? That unbearable weight of, I knew this was coming, but no one listened. That's the cost of being chosen. You live ahead of your time. You see before others are willing to open their eyes. And while it can feel isolating, it's not punishment, it's placement. You've been positioned at the front lines of spiritual awareness, not to be silenced, but to sound the alarm. Even in our modern world, there are echoes of this calling. Angelina Jolie, known for more than just her roles on screen, once expressed deep sorrow about how many people never act on what they truly want to do. Her words speak to a spiritual grief, the heartbreak that comes from sensing purpose but never stepping into it. But you, chosen one, are different. You are not just sensing early. You're being asked to move early. So the next time someone says you're too intense, too emotional, too much, pause for a moment. What if you're not too much, but just too early? What if you're arriving at a moment that others won't understand until next year, next season, or the next crisis? Heaven doesn't run on earthly timelines. You weren't made to follow the crowd. You were chosen to go ahead of it. This is why your insight feels out of place, because you're operating in foresight. This is why your warnings feel ignored, because you've seen what they haven't. And this is why your presence feels disruptive to those who aren't ready, because light always shakes the darkness before it breaks it. You're not reacting, you're revealing. You're not emotional, you're awakened. And that awakening, that's your divine identity speaking. You were never meant to blend in. You were chosen to prepare the way, to walk ahead, to sense what's coming, to respond when others remain still. That's the mark you carry, and that mark has heaven's fingerprints all over it. This spiritual sensitivity you carry, it doesn't just whisper to your soul, it pulses through your very body. You may not have realized it before, but your physical reactions often reveal divine signals long before your mind catches up. Have you ever felt a sudden chill with no logical reason? a racing heartbeat in an environment that looked calm on the outside, or an invisible pressure urging you to pull away from someone whose words sounded kind, but whose presence felt off. These aren't mere mood swings. They are spiritual messages, transmissions from heaven carried through the temple of your body. Your body was handcrafted by God, and woven into it is a form of divine intelligence that too many overlook. This is spiritual protection in motion. It's not fear, it's foresight. And when you begin to recognize these signs, you stop navigating life with guesswork and start walking in divine awareness. Think back to David, before he ever became king, before the crown or the fame. When he was sent by his father to deliver food to his brothers on the battlefield, he wasn't expecting to fight. But the moment he arrived and saw Goliath blaspheming the living God, something inside him ignited. It wasn't just anger, it was holy discomfort. Can you imagine what David must have felt in that moment? His body responded before his strategy formed. That fire in his chest, that tightening in his gut, that was divine alignment preparing him for the confrontation God had already written into his destiny. You may not be standing in front of a literal giant, but your life is surrounded by spiritual battlegrounds, and your body knows when you're stepping into one. That stomach drop when someone enters the room, that tightness in your chest during what's supposed to be a joyful conversation, that subtle panic when you cross a threshold and your spirit screams, "Something's not right here." Have you been taught to ignore that feeling? Have you silenced it in the name of politeness or logic? Let me tell you, those physical shifts are not overreactions, they are revelations. The Holy Spirit often speaks through sensations that don't come with words. That tingling on your skin, that urge to step back, that rush of adrenaline. It might just be the voice of God warning you, guiding you, redirecting you before harm even has a chance to form. Even outside the church, people have tried to explain this. Maya Angelou, a woman of profound wisdom and spiritual clarity, once said, "When someone shows you who they are, believe them the first time. But what if you sense who they are before they show anything at all? What if God wired your body to detect falsehood long before it reveals itself in action?" So many people have walked into heartbreak, betrayal, even danger, because they talked themselves out of what their spirit already knew. I remember a time I met someone who seemed perfectly warm and generous. Everyone around them was laughing, enjoying their presence. But I couldn't relax. Something inside me was uneasy. My heart raced, my stomach turned, and I couldn't explain why. Days later, it all came out. That person had been manipulating and lying to the very people they charmed. Looking back, it was never about logic. It was about discernment. God had warned me through my body, and I've never forgotten it. Have you ever felt that kind of invisible tension? That voice in your gut saying, "Leave now," even though nothing looked dangerous? That push to cancel a meeting, take another route, avoid a conversation, and later you found out why. That's not just survival instinct. That's the mark of someone who walks not by sight, but by the Spirit. This sensitivity may feel inconvenient. You might wonder, why can't I just be carefree like everyone else? But you weren't created for comfort. You were chosen for calling. That heightened alertness isn't a weakness. It's your spiritual armor. While others rely on appearances, you've been anointed to read atmospheres. You don't just see smiles, you feel intentions. You don't just hear words, you sense truth behind them. The moment you begin to honor what your body is trying to say, your life changes. You stop moving based on what seems right and start moving based on what feels right in your spirit. You stop asking, "Does this make sense?" and instead begin to ask, "Is the Spirit giving me peace right now?" Think of Jesus himself in the Garden of Gethsemane. The night before his crucifixion, his soul was in anguish. His body trembled, he sweat drops of blood, He felt the weight of what was coming before anyone else understood the magnitude. His body reacted to the spiritual realm pressing in, and even that was a sign of obedience. He didn't run from the discomfort, he surrendered to it. You too are called to that level of sensitivity, not to suffer, but to discern, to recognize what others miss, to move when others are still sleeping. And that's what makes you chosen. As one of God's chosen ones, your spiritual sensitivity was never meant to remain a fleeting feeling. It's designed to grow, to deepen, to evolve into something unshakable. Over time, what once felt like a mere hunch matures into a divine compass, a sacred guidance system etched directly into your spirit. And as you begin to honor it, something extraordinary happens. It becomes clearer, stronger, and more precise. You no longer wander. You begin to navigate. This inner compass doesn't rise from fear, nor is it governed by human logic. It doesn't rely on appearances or public approval. Instead, it's rooted in truth. Truth that aligns with the essence of who you really are in God. You start to notice that certain choices, no matter how perfect they look on paper, carry no peace in your spirit. Something inside you tightens. You hear that still, subtle whisper, "Not this way." Have you had moments like that, when everything seemed to add up, but your spirit quietly urged you to stop? That is not hesitation. That is holy discernment. And when you trust it, you're not losing out. You're being preserved. This is the beginning of true spiritual maturity. You're no longer just reacting to life. You're partnering with God in how you move through it. Isaiah once declared a powerful promise. Whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you saying, "This is the way. Walk in it." That verse speaks directly to you. It describes what happens when your discernment matures. You stop chasing clarity through circumstances and begin to follow the clarity within. Suddenly, you find yourself dodging relationships that looked promising but were secretly poisoned. You walk away from jobs that seemed ideal but would have drained your calling. You say yes to God's timing, even when the world around you is screaming, "Act now or lose everything." But you don't lose anything because you never needed what wasn't assigned to you in the first place. This level of discernment is not new. It's ancient. When Solomon, son of David, became king, he could have asked God for anything: military power, long life, great wealth. But he asked for one thing: "Give your servant a discerning heart." He knew that discernment was more valuable than gold, and because he honored that wisdom, God added everything else. Doesn't that echo something within you right now, that what you truly need in this season isn't more information? It's deeper spiritual perception. Even in today's culture, far removed from biblical language, echoes of this truth still surface. Steve Jobs, a visionary who transformed the world of technology, once told a group of young graduates, "Have the courage to follow your heart and intuition. They somehow already know what you truly want to become." He wasn't quoting scripture, but his words still touch something ancient and divine, because the principle is universal. The voice of God often moves first through your spirit before your mind can comprehend. What if you stopped dismissing that inner nudge? What if, instead of brushing it aside in the name of reason, you began to revere it as the motion of God within you? What would change if you no longer needed the crowd's approval before stepping out? If you no longer waited for signs written in the sky, because the sign was already pulsing in your chest? When you begin to honor that compass, your life changes from the inside out. You stop circling the same mountain year after year. You stop repeating painful lessons. You stop asking, "Why does this keep happening to me?" and start walking in clarity that protects you from unnecessary suffering. This doesn't mean your journey will be without trials, but it does mean you'll no longer suffer from disobedience. You'll no longer be wounded by what you were called to walk past. You'll be guided, guarded, and grounded. This is the mark of those who are truly awakened. You don't wait for proof to know what's right. You don't depend on outer signs when you've been given inner sight. You were chosen to carry an ancient wisdom that lives in your very bones. A sensitivity that is not weakness, but divine strength in disguise. And that strength? It will save you from sorrow and lead you into destiny. Are you finally ready to stop resisting and start responding? Because your compass is already pointing you forward. As one of God's chosen ones carrying this mark, the sacred ability to perceive what others cannot, you begin to live as though you can see the invisible. And in a very real sense, you do. You're no longer navigating life by appearances alone. You move with the kind of inner certainty that only comes from being led by something deeper, something divine. You sense direction in stillness. You feel answers before questions even form. You are no longer living by the surface. You are led by the Spirit. When you finally stop second-guessing this gift, when you stop brushing off your discernment as coincidence or imagination, everything in your life begins to align in ways that cannot be explained naturally. Have you noticed it? When you trust that voice within, clarity arrives like morning light. Direction flows like a stream. Peace settles where chaos used to dwell. And yes, provision and prosperity follow, not as a prize for striving, but as fruit of alignment. Why? Because once you are tuned to what God is revealing beneath the surface, you stop walking blindly and start walking boldly. You don't chase, you don't force, you flow. You are no longer chasing the world's formula for success. You are following divine alignment. That's when Psalm 37 becomes your reality. The steps of a good man are ordered by the Lord, and he delights in his way. When God orders your steps, you step into rooms with confidence, not confusion. You move through seasons with faith, not fear. And the universe, this intricate order God has spoken into existence, begins to respond. The environment shifts to accommodate your obedience. The right people appear at the right moment. You sense danger before it strikes. You are positioned for breakthroughs you didn't have to manipulate to receive. Others may look at your life and ask, "How did you know? How did you move like that?" But they don't see the deeper truth. It's not you alone. It's the mark of God resting upon you, leading you through what cannot be seen by human eyes. Yet there's a deeper layer to this mark, one that's rarely spoken but deeply felt. You may think you've been walking in quiet obedience, barely noticed, but there's a group that sees you long before you speak. They feel your presence before you enter a conversation. They sense your light before your name is even mentioned. Have you ever entered a room and felt the shift before a single word was exchanged? Eyes turn, not out of curiosity, but out of recognition. Not everyone can explain it, but they feel it. And the reason is simple. There's a spiritual weight to who you are. You don't have to announce your identity. Your spirit speaks for you. And it speaks not just to those walking in the light, but to those still hiding in the dark. Do you remember how the demons reacted to Jesus? In Luke chapter 4, a man possessed by an unclean spirit cried out, "Go away. What do you want with us, Jesus of Nazareth? Have you come to destroy us?" Jesus hadn't rebuked him yet. He hadn't even addressed him directly. But his presence alone exposed what was hidden. That's the kind of authority you carry, not because you've earned it, but because God placed it on you. That's why some people feel uneasy around you, even if you've done nothing wrong. It's why certain individuals resist you without ever taking the time to know your heart. It's not your personality they're reacting to. It's your presence. Your light disturbs what's been comfortable in the dark. Your discernment unsettles those who prefer illusion. Could it be that your very existence reminds them of what they're running from? Could it be that your calling confronts what they've chosen to ignore? Even in the world of fame and leadership, this reality plays out. Robin Williams, known for his ability to bring laughter to millions, once said, "Everyone you meet is fighting a battle you know nothing about. Be kind, always." There's a reason those words resonate so deeply. They touch a truth your spirit already knows. You, chosen one, have felt those silent battles in others. You've walked into rooms filled with laughter, only to feel pain behind the smiles. You've heard words of charm and still sense the sadness underneath. And it's that spiritual depth, your ability to see the unseen, to feel the truth beneath performance, that sets you apart. It's not that you're overthinking, it's that you're perceiving. And perception is power when it's anchored in the spirit. So don't shrink back when people notice you before you speak. Don't apologize for your presence shifting atmospheres. That's not pride, that's anointing. And both the righteous and the rebellious will respond to it because it cannot be ignored. You were never created to blend in. You were never designed to hide your light. You were chosen to carry it. And now that you're beginning to understand it, can you feel it? The atmosphere around you is already shifting. The path before you is becoming clearer. The voice within you is growing louder. Your life is aligning, not because you forced it, but because you finally said yes to who you've always been. This is your moment. You don't just walk in the natural, you move in the spirit, and the world is starting to feel it. Let's uncover the second powerful mark carried by many of God's chosen ones, one that may have seemed so ordinary, so easy to overlook, that you never realized what it truly meant. It's the way children and animals respond to you. Have you noticed it? A child you've never spoken to locks eyes with you across the room and smiles without reason. A baby reaches for you from the arms of a stranger. A cat curls up beside you, even though you're new to the house. A dog follows you down the street, calm and quiet, as if it already knows you. You may have brushed those moments off, thinking I must just be good with kids, or I guess animals like me. But what if there's something far deeper at play? What if these moments are not random at all, but sacred confirmations that something in you carries the fragrance of heaven? Children and animals, unlike adults, are unfiltered. They aren't moved by your appearance, your resume, or your social status. They don't care how important you are or how impressive you sound. They feel energy. They sense truth. They respond to spiritual frequency, something that can't be faked or forced. And when they're drawn to you, it's not because of what you say, it's because of what you carry. Have you ever wondered why you can feel a baby staring at you, eyes wide and still, as if they're looking through the veil into something eternal? Could it be that the purity in them is resonating with the purity God has preserved in you? The Bible affirms this connection. In the book of Matthew, Jesus quoted the Psalms when he said, "From the lips of children and infants, you, Lord, have called forth your praise." Children are spiritually attuned in a way many adults have forgotten. They haven't been hardened by ego, pride, or performance. Their spirits are still open, still soft enough to respond to heaven's presence. That's why they gravitate toward you, chosen one. Because there's something in you that feels like home to them, something pure, something safe. Even Jesus, while on earth, drew children to himself effortlessly. In Matthew 19, when others tried to shoo the little ones away, he said, "Let the little children come to me, and do not hinder them, for the kingdom of heaven belongs to such as these." He wasn't just teaching a lesson in kindness. He was revealing a spiritual reality. The young, the innocent, the pure-hearted, they recognized divine presence. And when they ran toward him, they were responding to what their spirits had already discerned. But it's not just children. All of creation is spiritually sensitive, especially animals. Throughout Scripture, we see God using animals to reveal hidden truths. One of the most striking examples is found in Numbers 22, when Balaam's donkey, yes, a donkey, began to speak. The animals saw the angel of the Lord standing in the road before the prophet did. Think about that. The donkey sensed the spiritual realm before the prophet of God could. This wasn't just a miraculous moment, it was a divine reminder. Animals are far more spiritually aware than we realize. They feel tension, they detect danger, they rest where peace reigns. So when animals calmly approach you, sit near you, or follow you as if you're familiar, they're responding to the atmosphere you carry. That's not just friendliness, it's spiritual sensitivity at work. And they recognize in you what even some people don't see yet. You're marked. This is more than just a biblical pattern. It's observable in real life too. Jane Goodall, the renowned scientist who devoted her life to studying chimpanzees in the wild, often spoke about how animals responded to human energy. She once said, "Only if we understand can we care. Only if we care will we help. Only if we help shall all be saved." Her life's work revealed what creation has always known, that animals gravitate toward those who are safe, present, and energetically aligned. And you, chosen one, radiate something that can't be taught. It must be carried. I remember a woman who shared how, during one of the darkest seasons of her life, she couldn't even pray. But every time she sat on her porch, the neighborhood cats, usually skittish and wild, would gather around her feet and lie down quietly. She didn't understand it then, but now she says, "I think they felt something I couldn't even feel in myself yet." Isn't that often the case? Others, especially the pure-hearted, see the light in you before you're even fully aware it's shining. Have you experienced it? A toddler reaching for you without hesitation, a stranger's pet refusing to leave your side, a moment of stillness with a baby in your arms, as if the world paused for something sacred to be exchanged? These aren't quirks, they're signs. Your presence shifts the atmosphere, your silence speaks healing, your energy brings calm where chaos once lived. You don't have to explain who you are. Those attuned to truth, whether child or creature, will always recognize it. And yes, there's another layer. Your spirit doesn't just attract light, it disrupts darkness. Just as Jesus disturbed unclean spirits simply by walking into a room, you carry an authority that unsettles what isn't of God. That's why some people may reject you, resent you, or stare at you with unease. Because without saying a word, your presence confronts what others are still hiding. But the innocent, the pure-hearted, will always draw near. Because they know. You were never meant to blend in. You were never meant to dull your light. You were meant to be seen and felt. So the next time a child stares in wonder or an animal lays at your feet in peace, don't brush it off. Don't dismiss it as nothing. Instead, ask the question your soul is ready to answer. What are they seeing in me that I have yet to fully embrace? Because this is the truth. You carry the mark, and creation has already confirmed it. While the world is busy judging through appearances, what can be seen, heard, or measured, you walk through life marked by something entirely different. You, chosen one, carry a presence that speaks before you open your mouth. And the ones who recognize it most clearly? They're not theologians, they're not scholars, they're the innocent, the ones who still live close to the spirit, children, animals, the pure-hearted. They don't need to analyze your clothes or your credentials. They don't care about your tone, your resume, or your following. They feel something deeper. They feel you. Have you noticed how a child you've never met locks eyes with you and smiles without fear? Or how an animal approaches you gently, sits at your feet, rests its head near your lap, without ever needing a reason? This is not random. This is recognition. Their spirits are sensing yours. When they come near, they're not responding to your outer life. They're responding to the light within you, a light that speaks in silence, saying, You are safe here. That reaction happens for a reason, because without even trying, you're living in alignment with your divine identity. The part of you that mirrors God's image, the unfiltered essence of who you were always meant to be. And when your spirit is aligned, it emits something rare, something sacred, a frequency not bound by human understanding, but rooted in spiritual coherence. You become a living signal of peace, a vibration that heals, that calms, that resonates with purity. And when that frequency meets a soul that hasn't been buried by ego, fear, or performance, it responds instantly. There's no need for explanations. The heart already knows. This is the power of walking in divine alignment. And it's why toddlers who can barely speak will cling to you. It's why stray animals will linger longer near your home. It's not about logic, it's about resonance. Do you remember what Jesus said in the Gospel of John? "My sheep listen to my voice. I know them, and they follow me." That wasn't just about auditory hearing. It was about spiritual recognition, about the divine imprint that God's children carry, and how those in tune with the Spirit respond to it without needing words. In the book of 1 Samuel, we meet young Samuel, just a boy, sleeping in the temple. He hears God calling, not once, but 3 times, and though he doesn't recognize it at first, it is his purity that allows him to hear what even the seasoned priest Eli had begun to forget. Samuel's spirit was still open, still sensitive, still innocent enough to hear heaven. You may not realize it, but that same purity, that same sensitivity, is how others experience you. Even in the modern world, this truth has not gone unnoticed. Fred Rogers, known to many as Mr. Rogers, devoted his life to children's emotional and spiritual well-being. He once said, "When we can be present to the moment with the person that we happen to be with, that's what's important." He understood that real presence, gentle, grounded, full of truth, has the power to heal. Not through big speeches or dramatic gestures, but simply through being. That's what you carry. That's who you are. So ask yourself, what does your presence say, even when your lips are silent? Does it whisper, "You're safe, you're seen, you're loved"? Because whether or not you notice it, those who are too unguarded to pretend, the young, the fragile, the wild, are already responding to you. Not because of what you do, but because of who you are. This is not a small thing. This is a sacred mark, a divine confirmation that you are in communion with something greater than yourself. That the alignment you've stepped into isn't just helping you, it's healing others without them even knowing why. You carry a living spark, a reflection of the eternal, and the purest among us recognize it immediately, not because they understand it, but because their spirit remembers it. That's why they come near. That's why they linger. That's why they trust you without reason, because you carry the light of the one who made them, and the light always draws the innocent first. What rests on you goes far beyond surface charisma, because let's be honest, this was never about charm, popularity, or magnetism that can be studied, rehearsed, or performed. That kind of charisma, it can be faked, it can be sold, but what you carry can't be copied, replicated, or taught in a seminar. You, as one of God's chosen ones, carry something sacred. You walk with a spiritual resonance, a divine frequency that flows not from your voice or gestures, but from the depth of your soul. It doesn't come from what you do. It is who you are. It's not something you put on like a costume. This frequency is the quiet vibration of someone who's been through the fire, come out purified, and learned that real abundance has nothing to do with status, wealth, or validation. It's the sound of a spirit that knows peace, the rhythm of someone who is no longer striving to be seen, but who already sees clearly, someone connected to God, living in truth and resting in wholeness. Have you ever noticed how people respond to you without ever really knowing why? Some feel drawn to you, like they've found a sanctuary in your presence. Others withdraw, avoiding eye contact, suddenly uncomfortable without any obvious reason. It's not because of what you say, it's because your spirit says something their soul can't ignore. This is the evidence of divine alignment. In the Bible, there's a mysterious moment that captures this perfectly. In the book of Mark, chapter 5, a woman who had been bleeding for 12 years pressed through the crowd to touch the hem of Jesus' garment. She didn't ask permission. She didn't make a scene. She just touched the edge of his robe, and immediately she was healed. Jesus hadn't spoken to her yet, but he stopped and said, "Power has gone out from me." That's what happens when you walk in union with the Holy Spirit. Your presence releases something, not because you're trying, but because you're carrying. Could it be that people feel a shift inside themselves just by being near you? That they find peace without understanding why, or discomfort because something within them is waking up? This frequency that flows from you, it doesn't just comfort, it also confronts. That's why some people feel safe and open in your presence, while others feel triggered, exposed, or defensive. Your presence becomes a mirror, one that reflects not just light but truth, and that truth can be healing or unsettling depending on how ready someone is to face it. Have you noticed how certain people pour out their stories to you, even though they barely know you? Or how others keep their distance, unsure how to respond to your quiet strength? It's not about you being intimidating. It's about your alignment revealing theirs. And the more you grow in spiritual awareness, the stronger this influence becomes. You start walking into rooms and shifting atmospheres without a word. You bring clarity into chaos. You awaken what's dormant in others simply by being present. It's not noise, it's light, not loud, but deeply felt. We've seen this in the lives of those who were never seeking attention, but whose presence changed lives. Take Mother Teresa. She didn't have fame or fashion. She wasn't adorned in gold or seated in palaces. And yet, people who stood in her presence spoke of an overwhelming peace. She once said, "Peace begins with a smile." But that smile carried weight, because it was the smile of someone fully aligned with God's purpose. And what if you too carry that kind of essence? What if your frequency is not just noticeable, but needed? What if you're not strange, you're sacred? What if your presence is the answer to a question someone hasn't even spoken aloud yet? Think for a moment, what actually happens to people when you walk into the room? What shifts inside them? Do they feel seen? Do they feel safe? Do they feel convicted or comforted? Because even if you haven't fully realized it yet, the truth remains. You carry a spiritual mark, an anointing that speaks louder than your words ever could. And this world, drowning in noise, numb to truth, desperate for peace, it needs what you carry. So stop questioning it, stop dimming it, stop waiting for permission to be who you already are. You were never sent here to perform. You were sent here to resonate. And now that you're becoming aware of it, what will you do with the presence you carry? Never underestimate the divine power woven into your presence. You may not shout it from rooftops. You may not seek applause or attention. And yet, as one of God's chosen ones, you carry a force that cannot be denied. What radiates from you isn't a personality trait, a mood, or a learned charisma. It's something far greater. It's a spiritual current flowing through you from the unseen realms, reaching places in others they didn't even know needed healing. Have you noticed it? How just your presence, your stillness, your peace can soften the room. How people open up to you without even realizing why. You don't need to speak to be heard. Your being speaks. Your energy carries an assignment. Without saying a word, you pierce spiritual dimensions. You walk into rooms filled with unspoken pain, and light begins to break through. Hearts that had hardened begin to soften. eyes clouded by fear start to see clearly again. Have you ever felt it? That moment when everything around you quiets, not out of fear, but reverence. This is not coincidence. It's divine design. And you see it most clearly through the innocent. When a child locks eyes with you and smiles, not because of anything you've done, but because something in their spirit recognizes safety in yours. Or when an animal, more attuned to truth than most adults, curls beside you with no hesitation. These moments aren't just cute, they are confirmations, whispers from the Spirit that you're walking in alignment with your calling. God is speaking through creation to affirm the mark you carry. Think of Daniel, a stranger in a foreign kingdom, surrounded by systems that didn't reflect his faith or values. And yet, his presence was magnetic. Kings sought his counsel. Advisors envied his favor. What made him so distinct? Scripture says he had an excellent spirit within him, not a loud one, not a charming one, but excellent, pure, steady, faithful. Isn't it possible that what you carry is the same? That your quiet wisdom, your grounded peace, your refusal to conform is what sets you apart? Could it be that your stillness speaks louder than noise ever could? And maybe that's why people tell you things they haven't told anyone else. Maybe that's why strangers seem drawn to you, like they've found rest in your presence, even if they don't understand why. It's not manipulation. It's not performance. It's spiritual alignment. You're not chasing resonance. You are resonance. You leave a mark wherever you go, a spiritual imprint, not through striving, but through being. You don't have to prove your authenticity. It proves itself in how people feel around you. That's the beauty of divine frequency. It speaks louder than introductions, louder than explanations, louder than even words. Viola Davis, a woman who knows both struggle and victory, once said, "You can't be hesitant about who you are." Her strength wasn't in shouting, it was in standing. And that same strength rests in you. The power to transform without forcing, to lead without pushing, to awaken without even trying. So when you experience that mysterious connection, that moment when someone seems pulled to you, drawn by something they can't name, pause and recognize it. That is the Spirit of God moving through your presence. That is the frequency of heaven sounding through your life. That is what it means to carry light. And maybe you've felt it lately, something shifting, something rising. If that resonates with you, declare it boldly. My energy speaks before my words. Because it's more than a phrase, it's a revelation. It's a reminder that you've been marked by God to reveal His nature through stillness, not just speech. But this is only part of the story. Because while your presence changes the world around you, something even more powerful is happening within you. The next mark isn't about how people see you. It's about the transformation God is activating in the deepest chambers of your mind. Are you ready to discover that spiritual power? Because the next revelation lives inside of you. Now we've arrived at the most powerful mark of all, the one that quietly shapes your entire journey. And the most astonishing part, you've likely carried this with you your whole life without fully understanding its weight. As one of God's chosen ones, you may have begun to notice a strange but consistent pattern. What you focus your thoughts on begins to show up in your reality, not just once, not randomly, but often, uncannily, specifically, and with divine precision. This is not coincidence. This is not wishful thinking. This is evidence of your mind's alignment with the realm of the Spirit. What you've been walking in is not some vague manifestation trend. It's far deeper than feel-good affirmations or positive vibes. What you carry is a sacred gift, a mind that doesn't just dream, but creates. A consciousness that is synchronized with heaven's frequency. When you think with intention, the atmosphere around you responds. Unseen realms begin to rearrange. What was once intangible begins to take shape. Have you ever experienced it? You think of a person you haven't seen in years, and the next day they message you. You imagine a specific door opening, and within days it does. You speak life over a situation, and it begins to turn. You don't chase, you don't force, you envision, and the heavens move. Have you ever paused to ask, why does this keep happening for you? This isn't luck, this isn't superstition, and it certainly isn't manipulation. What you're experiencing is the manifestation of divine design, an inner agreement between your renewed mind and God's will. Paul understood this when he wrote to the Romans, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." He wasn't just offering advice, he was revealing a spiritual law. Your mind, when renewed by the Spirit, becomes the seat of transformation. Your thoughts don't just inform your emotions, they activate your environment. Consider Elijah. In the days of drought, when the land was dry and hope was scarce, Elijah climbed to the top of Mount Carmel. He didn't wish for rain. He prayed with precision. He envisioned it. He sent his servant to look toward the sea, again and again, until a cloud the size of a man's hand began to rise. That tiny cloud grew into a torrential downpour. What had shifted? Not the weather, but the spiritual realm, responding to a mind and spirit in alignment with God. Could it be that your thoughts, too, are forming clouds, that your visions are not fantasies but blueprints? This ability doesn't make you better than others. It makes you responsible. Because when your mind has that kind of influence, what you allow yourself to focus on matters. What you meditate on matters. That's why the enemy wages war on your attention, because he knows that if he can distract your mind, he can delay your destiny. And that's also why God has spent years training you in silence, teaching you to guard your thoughts, to resist reaction, to choose vision over panic, because the moment your thoughts become disciplined, they become dangerous to darkness. Even in the world outside the church, glimpses of this truth shine through. Visionaries like Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. didn't just react to injustice, they held a vision of something different, a dream, and that dream began to reshape a nation. Why? Because when thoughts align with righteousness, they become unstoppable. And now, that same potential lives in you. You've been chosen to think like heaven, to imagine the impossible, to receive divine insight and send it into motion. That's why you've always felt different. That's why your mind won't rest until it sees what your spirit has already glimpsed. So ask yourself gently, what would shift in your life if you stopped treating your thoughts as background noise and started treating them as blueprints from God? Because the power you carry isn't just in your hands, it's in your mind. And that chosen one is the most powerful spiritual mark of all. The spiritual mark you carry is rare, and with rarity often comes misunderstanding. People who don't see the depth of what you carry might label it as strange. Some may even envy it without knowing why. But what they're sensing isn't oddness, it's power. What they feel is a divine reality that most have never dared to believe. That your thoughts, when filled with faith and grounded in divine alignment, don't just stay in your head, they create. This isn't superstition. It's not about rituals, formulas, or lucky signs. It's not even about religion as the world defines it. What you're experiencing is a spiritual law, etched into the design of creation by God Himself. When your mind aligns with His will, your thoughts begin to carry weight across both the spiritual and physical realms. It's not magic, it's divine engineering. And you, chosen one, are living proof that this law works. Look at Steve Harvey, a man who once lived out of his car, broke and overlooked, but in the silence of his struggle, he wrote down a vision to be on television. He didn't just dream it, he declared it. He held it in his mind. He lived in that reality before it ever showed up. And today, the world watches as his life stands as a testimony to what focused thought paired with relentless faith can become. His story isn't the exception, it's the evidence. You've had moments like this too, haven't you? Times when your focus became a magnet, when something you held in your mind began to materialize in your life. You may have thought it was coincidence, but deep inside, didn't it feel like something more? Haven't you had experiences where you pictured something clearly, repeatedly, almost obsessively, and within days it came to pass? A certain person crosses your mind, and they appear. A door you imagined opens. A problem you worried about arrives. And in each case, whether it brought joy or stress, you were left wondering, how did this happen so precisely? What if the answer is that your thoughts have never been passive? That your mind isn't just a storage room for ideas, but a broadcast tower for your spirit. Every focused thought, every emotion-charged intention sends a ripple through the spiritual field God created, and that field responds. That's not mysticism, that's kingdom truth. You are not just thinking, you are forming reality. This explains why your inner life holds so much weight, why you often feel uneasy when your thoughts are scattered or your emotions are off balance, why you instinctively retreat when your atmosphere feels out of alignment. Because deep down, you know, what you dwell on becomes. It's why Proverbs 23 tells us, "As a man thinketh in his heart, so is he." Not what he says, not what he performs, but what he truly believes deep inside. Because your heart and mind are creative instruments. And the longer a thought lives there, the more it begins to shape the outer world. Even Jesus, when he healed people, often addressed their thoughts, their beliefs, their internal alignment. Before the miracle happened in the body, he first spoke to the mind. "According to your faith, let it be done unto you." He understood that the true battle was not only physical, but spiritual, emotional, and mental. The battlefield of thought is where destiny begins. So if your thoughts have that kind of creative power, what are you allowing to take root in your inner world? This is why God has marked you so carefully, why he has spent seasons refining your thinking, pruning your patterns, and stripping away distractions. Because when someone like you thinks, things move. And heaven does not take that lightly. You've been given a mind that aligns with miracles, a voice that speaks, and creation listens. And yes, this gift carries weight, but it also carries purpose. So maybe it's time to stop second-guessing it. Maybe it's time to stop calling it coincidence and start calling it confirmation. Because you were never just thinking. You were shaping the world. This mark you carry, it's not something people can see with the naked eye. It doesn't announce itself through your voice, your clothes, or your physical posture. Instead, it's woven silently into the way your mind engages with the world. You're not merely reacting to life, you're reshaping it. Moment by moment, thought by thought, you're influencing reality in ways most people never even realize. Your thoughts aren't passive. They're living vibrations, energy in motion. And when they're charged with emotion and clarity, they become magnets, drawing in people, events, and opportunities that resonate with the frequency of your inner world. But here's where this spiritual mark becomes both powerful and deeply sobering. Because this gift you carry comes with responsibility. The same mind that can attract blessings can also draw in burdens. Your thoughts are seeds, and your mental atmosphere is fertile ground. And whether you plant hope or fear, peace or panic, belief or bitterness, something will grow. Have you noticed it? How when you dwell on disaster, disorder seems to follow. But when you shift your focus to solutions, peace, and faith, suddenly, doors open, clarity comes, and unexpected breakthroughs arrive. This isn't chance. It's not some trendy life hack. This is the hidden power of divine consciousness, and you, chosen one, have been entrusted with it. Look at Joseph in the book of Genesis, betrayed by his own brothers, thrown into a pit, sold as a slave, then falsely accused and locked away in prison. He had every reason to fall into despair, every excuse to let bitterness poison his spirit. But he didn't. Joseph chose to hold on to the vision God had given him. He refused to let trauma rewire his mind. And that decision, quiet, internal, unseen, was what positioned him for the greatest comeback in his generation. When Pharaoh finally called for him, Joseph didn't just interpret a dream. He stepped into a destiny that had been growing silently in his heart all along. Would that transformation have been possible if Joseph had filled his mind with revenge, self-pity, or fear? You already know the answer. And even today, echoes of this ancient truth appear in modern lives. Take Jim Carrey, a man known for comedy, but whose journey reveals something spiritual. Long before success, he wrote himself a check for $10 million. He visualized it. He believed it. He carried it not in his wallet, but in his mind. And years later, the opportunity came. That check became reality, not because of magic, but because of unwavering focus and faith-filled thought. And now, that same creative power rests in you. That's why this mark is not a decoration. It's a commission. You've been given the divine ability to shape your environment, not through manipulation or force, but through the architecture of your thoughts. What you repeat with emotional intensity, you begin to build. What you meditate on in the private corners of your mind becomes the frame of the life you walk into. So gently, chosen one, ask yourself, what have you been focusing on lately? What stories have you been replaying? What images are you building in your imagination? Because the answer may already be unfolding around you. You may be standing inside the very thing you gave mental life to 6 months ago, or 6 years ago. You carry a spiritual blueprint maker within you, and this power is not to be dismissed. It's to be honored. This is why God has been teaching you to renew your mind, why He's been stripping away distractions and pulling you out of toxic cycles, because He knows what you carry is too sacred to waste on fear. Your thoughts are not idle. They are not accidental. They are instruments of creation. And today, they are either preparing your prison or shaping your promotion. Most people walk through life half asleep, unaware of the power pulsing within them. They call their victories luck and their breakthroughs coincidence. When doors open, they say it's chance. When setbacks strike, they shrug it off as unfortunate timing. But you are different. You are awake now. You've seen too much, felt too much, survived too much to still believe that life is ruled by randomness. As one of God's chosen ones, you've come to understand a deeper truth. Life is shaped not by accident, but by intention. You've begun to recognize that your mind is more than just a processor of information. It's a sacred bridge between the unseen and the seen, a divine channel where invisible truths are translated into visible outcomes. When you carry this spiritual mark, your thoughts no longer feel weak or wandering. They become living seeds, activated by your faith, charged by your focus, and aligned with the hand of God. And as your awareness grows, so does your authority. You stop reacting to life as if it's happening to you, and begin shaping it as someone who's aligned with heaven. Have you noticed it? The way your inner world begins to echo through your outer experiences. That isn't coincidence. That's creation in motion. Jesus himself confirmed this mystery in Matthew 9 when he said, "According to your faith, let it be done to you." He didn't point to status or effort or even tradition. He pointed to faith. And where does faith begin? In the realm of thought, in that quiet space where belief is born, where clarity meets surrender, and where trust becomes power. This is the true definition of prosperity, not just external wealth or worldly recognition, but the deep, unshakable knowing that you were made to create. that you were designed in the image of the Creator, as Genesis declares. And because of that divine origin, you don't just have imagination, you have the authority to manifest what aligns with His truth. As this awareness deepens, your eyes begin to open in a new way. You start to notice the patterns in your thinking. You catch the thoughts that return again and again, not as distractions, but as divine invitations. Those ideas you can't seem to shake? The dreams that won't leave, even after years of delay or doubt? What if they're not random at all? What if they're blueprints, spiritual scrolls waiting to be unrolled by your agreement, focus, and faith? Look at Tyler Perry. Born into trauma, raised in instability, overlooked by almost everyone except God. In his quiet spaces, he began to write, not to impress, but to heal. He once said, "I didn't know I was planting seeds for my future." But those words he wrote in hidden places became the foundation of an empire. His stories weren't just scripts, they were spiritual declarations. And today, the fruit of that obedience is undeniable. His journey wasn't built on luck, it was built on vision. And now, the same is being asked of you. What thoughts won't leave you alone? What desires rise in your spirit like whispers, returning again and again, no matter how often you try to push them away? Could it be that they aren't distractions, but destiny? Could it be that what you've been calling a crazy dream is actually a calling in disguise? These are the seeds vibrating with purpose. They are not idle. They are not foolish. They are waiting for you to stop dismissing them, waiting for you to say yes, waiting for you to believe that your imagination isn't rebellion, it's revelation. You don't need anyone's permission to carry what God already wrote on your heart. So take a moment now and ask yourself, what vision has God placed within me that I keep trying to ignore? Because the question isn't whether the seeds are real. The question is, will you continue to bury them, or will you honor them as the very blueprint of your calling? This level of awareness changes everything. It lifts you out of unconscious living. You no longer drift through life, allowing random thoughts to run wild in your mind. You begin to realize deeply and personally that your thoughts are not background noise. They're not harmless chatter. They are tools, sacred instruments. And as one of God's chosen ones, you've been entrusted with a mind that doesn't just observe reality, it shapes it. With this awakening comes a powerful responsibility, because whether you're aware of it or not, you're always creating. Every thought, every mental image, every internal conversation, it all begins to form structures in the unseen. Creating without wisdom is like handing the steering wheel of your life to the waves and hoping to arrive safely. But you weren't called to drift. You were called to design. Can you afford to let your future be guided by autopilot? Your thoughts are more than reactions, more than reflections. They are prayers in motion. Every repeated worry, every quiet hope, every image you return to again and again is a spiritual blueprint asking for form. Whether you're conscious of it or not, your inner life is asking, shaping, building. That's why this mark you carry, the gift of spiritual creation, is not casual. It demands intentionality. It calls you to examine what you're feeding in the silence, because what you water in the mind eventually grows strong enough to seek its place in the physical world. Paul understood this when he wrote to the Philippians, "Whatever is true, whatever is noble, whatever is right, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is admirable, think on these things." Why such specificity? Because the mind is soil, and God, the master creator, knows that every seed, whether faith or fear, love or anxiety, produces fruit. The only question is, what are you planting? Look at David. Before he ever stood before Goliath, before he held the crown of Israel, he trained his thoughts in the fields. He meditated on God's faithfulness. He learned the language of trust in solitude. So when the day of battle came, his mind was already victorious. He didn't panic. He didn't shrink. He declared with confidence, The Lord who delivered me from the paw of the lion and the paw of the bear will deliver me from the hand of this Philistine. That battle wasn't won with a slingshot. It was won in David's mind before he ever stepped onto the battlefield. What about you? Can you trace the quiet thoughts that later turned into divine appointments? Have you ever imagined a conversation, then watched it unfold in the real world? Dreamed of an opportunity, only to see it open days or weeks later? At first, these things may have felt like coincidence. But was it really? Or was it the fruit of what you'd been quietly building in the spiritual realm? This is the law of sowing and reaping, operating not just in your actions, but in your consciousness. Even outside the church, this truth has been acknowledged. The late Dr. Wayne Dyer once said, "You don't attract what you want. You attract what you are." In other words, your life doesn't bend to your desires. It responds to your essence. And your essence is shaped by your most dominant thoughts. As someone marked by divine purpose, you cannot afford to let your mental atmosphere be ruled by noise, fear, or negativity. You have the mind of a builder, an architect of things unseen. And every day you're laying bricks, brick by invisible brick, forming the foundation of what's to come. So let me gently ask you, what are you feeding mentally right now? What images are you rehearsing in the background of your daily life? Are you nurturing fear or faith? Are you rehearsing limitations or declaring truth? Because your thoughts are not clouds passing through the sky. They are seeds, they are blueprints, and once they are nourished by repetition, emotion, and focus, they manifest. You've been given more than imagination. You've been given authority. Will you allow your mind to be led by distraction, fear, and doubt? Or will you rise into the spiritual responsibility of this sacred mark, to think, to focus, and to create in alignment with God's highest purpose for your life? The choice isn't just mental, it's spiritual, and it's already shaping what comes next. The mind of a chosen one is not ordinary. It is sacred. It is a spiritual portal, a living, breathing gateway between the seen and the unseen. And like every true portal, it doesn't judge what comes through. It simply responds to energy, to intention, to frequency. This means your thoughts, what you dwell on, what you imagine, what you rehearse in the silence, pass through this gateway and begin to take form in the world around you. This isn't abstract theory for you, it's personal. You've felt it. The shift, the vibration, the deep awareness that your inner world is starting to echo outward, touching reality in ways that defy logic. Hasn't something within you begun to awaken? You know you're not just here to survive, to analyze, or to quietly observe the world like a bystander. No, you were sent here to shape it. Your role has shifted. You're no longer just a seeker of truth. You're stepping into your true identity, a co-creator with God. And that's where real enlightenment begins. Not when you simply ask for signs from heaven, but when you realize you're part of heaven's strategy. Have you noticed it? That moment when life no longer feels like it's happening to you, but through you. This isn't New Age hype. This is the very truth Jesus spoke when he said in John 14:12, "Whoever believes in me will do the works I have been doing, and they will do even greater things than these." Not greater by human strength, but greater because of divine union. When you stop imagining God as distant and begin walking with him daily, heart, mind, and spirit aligned, your entire reality transforms. Your prayers stop feeling like requests sent into silence. They become conversations. Your visions stop feeling like dreams. They become instructions. Your thoughts stop being random. They become the brushstrokes of heaven painting something eternal through your life. This union with the All, God, the Creator, the source of all that is, no longer feels like a concept you study. It becomes a practice, a relationship, a rhythm. You no longer chase miracles, you live inside them. And you begin to understand something even more radical. God is not separate from you. He is in you. As Paul writes in 1 Corinthians 3:16, "Do you not know that you are God's temple and that God's Spirit dwells in you?" This truth breaks the illusion of separation. You no longer see the universe as something out there. It becomes a mirror, reflecting your internal alignment with divine truth. And with this awareness comes both empowerment and humility. It reminds you you're powerful because you're connected, not because of ego, but because of union. Even minds like Nikola Tesla, the scientific genius of his time, seemed to tap into this. He once said, "If you want to find the secrets of the universe, think in terms of energy, frequency, and vibration." Though he didn't speak in biblical terms, the principle he described resonates deeply with Scripture. The unseen is what gives birth to the seen. And now you, chosen one, are living from that very truth. You've likely already noticed it. Your outer world shifts as your inner clarity deepens. Conversations begin to align. Opportunities find you. Energy rearranges itself around your intention. Have you stopped merely asking and started co-creating? Have you begun to see that life bends toward your alignment, that breakthrough follows your clarity? That's not your imagination. That's evidence. It's confirmation that you've stepped into a new dimension of your calling. Your mind is no longer just a receiver. It is a portal of divine expression. With every thought, you help shape the world around you. With every act of faith, you bring heaven one step closer to earth. And with every intentional choice to align with love, clarity, wisdom, and truth, you fulfill a piece of the mission God placed inside your soul before your birth. You're not here by accident. You were chosen for this. You're no longer merely living life. You're building it, brick by invisible brick, together with God. You may not fully grasp how it all works just yet, but one truth continues to rise within your spirit. The universe, God's creation, responds to the energy you emit, not just occasionally, not just when you pray, but constantly. As one of God's chosen ones, your vibration, your emotional and spiritual frequency, carries more weight than most people can comprehend. What you radiate, whether intentionally or unconsciously, becomes a signal, a transmission sent into both heaven and earth. And that signal attracts, aligns, and assembles events, relationships, and opportunities that match its tone. Have you started to notice it? The way certain patterns repeat when your inner world changes. How peace brings clarity, or how worry seems to open doors to chaos. That's not coincidence. That's spiritual alignment at work. This sacred mark, the power of your mental and spiritual resonance, is not something you can carry lightly anymore. Once you've awakened to this truth, you're no longer permitted to think carelessly. The cost is too great. The influence is too real. You must now think with wisdom, with reverence, with deep, grounded faith. Why? Because few responsibilities are as holy as this, the ability to influence reality simply by existing in harmony with who God made you to be. Most people live unaware of the conversations happening in their own heads. They speak peace but think fear. They hope for change but rehearse defeat. But you, chosen one, you've been called to live consciously, to think with intention, to create with spiritual awareness. You've been given the blueprint and the authority to build what others can't yet see. This truth echoes powerfully in Proverbs 4:23. Above all else, guard your heart, for everything you do flows from it. Notice that everything, your actions, your relationships, your decisions, even your energy, the heart and mind are linked, and what you dwell on within will eventually make its way into the fabric of your external life. This is why your inner world cannot be treated as a private playground. It's a spiritual command center, broadcasting frequencies that shape your future. What you feed there grows. What you repeat there builds. What you allow to remain there eventually takes form in the physical realm. That's what makes this particular mark, the power of mental alignment, the most transformational of all. It doesn't just change how others perceive you, it changes how reality itself interacts with you. When your thoughts begin to align with your divine identity, when your mind reflects truth instead of distortion, when your inner frequency resonates with faith, not fear, your entire world begins to reorganize itself around that truth. Think of Nelson Mandela, a man who spent 27 years in prison, but never allowed bitterness to pollute his inner atmosphere. He didn't surrender his vision to darkness. He held it, protected it, lived in it internally long before it ever showed up externally. And when he was released, the world responded to what he had been building all along. His freedom wasn't a miracle of politics, it was the fruit of inner mastery. And now the same calling rests on you. You are being invited into a deeper level of spiritual authority, one that begins not with action, but with alignment. The more consistently you live in harmony with God's truth, peace, and divine purpose, the more profoundly your life becomes a testimony, not of chance, but of chosen vibration. So ask yourself, what are you vibrating right now? What frequency are your thoughts sending into the atmosphere? Are they carrying fear, or are they echoing faith? Are you rehearsing wounds, or are you declaring healing? Because your thoughts are not just reactions, they are commands. And the world you're stepping into is already responding to what you've been carrying within. So, now you know. These marks, the gift of spiritual discernment, the energy that draws the innocent and pure, and the divine creative power of your thoughts, were never accidents. They are signs, sacred imprints, evidence that you've been chosen by God for a higher calling. And maybe for most of your life, you didn't understand why people reacted to you the way they did, why children smiled at you without knowing your name, why you felt certain things before they happened, why your thoughts seem to carry unusual weight. But now the veil is lifting. You're beginning to see clearly that what you carry isn't random, it's revelation. In a world chasing surface success, external validation, and artificial light, you, chosen one, carry something real, something ancient, something heaven has placed in you for such a time as this. And now, more than ever, the world needs people like you to awaken, to align, and to walk boldly in their spiritual identity. Personally, I believe we're living in a time where the spiritually aware are being activated, called to live with deeper purpose, clearer vision, and unwavering faith. These three marks are not just gifts, they are responsibilities. They call you higher, they pull you deeper. And if you're still watching this right now, it means God is confirming something your spirit already knew. You're not just chosen, you're ready. If this message spoke to something deep in you, if you felt the presence of these marks in your own life, even faintly, I invite you to comment below. I receive this. Speak it, declare it, activate it. Let the world and heaven know that you're stepping into everything God created you to be. And if you feel led to support this message through a super thanks, we are incredibly grateful. Your kindness and generosity help us continue to pour out these teachings with love, prayer, and purpose. But even if you don't give, please know this. Your presence here matters. Your energy here matters. You matter. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share this with someone who needs to be reminded of who they truly are. The journey of awakening is always more powerful when we walk it together. Until next time, stay grounded, stay chosen, and never forget, what's inside of you is not just special, it's sacred. May God bless you richly.